Today our topic is the brain and functions of the brain. First of all, what is the forebrain, hindbrain, midbrain? We did discuss yesterday class, right? So what are the functions of such a brain's parts? Like, okay, it is cerebrum. Cerebrum is the part of the forebrain. It is the cerebrum which is the largest part of the brain. Okay, so largest part of the forebrain. So we are going to discuss the parts of the cerebrum, the functions of the cerebrum. Later on we are going to discuss the midbrain and hindbrain and cerebellum. Okay, these are the brains, guys. First forebrain, midbrain, hindbrain. What are the functions? Yesterday we discussed the structure of the brains, that is hindbrain. What are the parts in the hindbrain? That is medulla and pons and midbrain and forebrain. Okay, yeah. What are the ventricles are associated with such a brain parts? Okay, so today we are going to discuss the functions of the brain. Okay, first of all, forebrain. In the forebrain, which is cerebrum. Cerebrum has two parts. There is the cerebral hemispheres. Two lobes of the cerebrums we can call cerebral hemisphere. Okay, which is have four parts, guys. Okay, first one is frontal. Okay, frontal lobe, temporal lobe, parietal lobe and occipital lobe. Four lobes are there in the cerebrum. Okay, four lobes are there in the cerebrum. Okay, first frontal lobe, this is the frontal lobe. Temporal lobe, this is the temporal lobe, and parietal lobe and occipital lobe. There are four lobes in the two hemispheres, cerebral hemisphere, which is connected with corpus callosum. Okay, the bundle of axon, the corpus callosum, they can connected with both lobes, cerebral hemispheres, left hemisphere and the right hemisphere. The places which is the places like irregular spaces of the cerebral hemisphere we can call gyres. The deep nexus, the places we can call sulcus. They are deep nexus. There is a deep, they are deep lobes. In the we can call sulcus. Gyres are the outer part of the irregular, discontinuous of cerebral hemisphere. We can call gyres and sulcus. Okay, yeah. So guys, what are the parts which are involved in the function? Okay, we are going to discuss about is each lobe. Okay, first, brain, they can carry the information, sensory information. Brain, they can carry information. It is brain, supreme part of the body. They can take the information from the sensory neurons. These are the sensory neurons. They can carry information towards the brain. Brain can analyze and they can give the information towards the motor neuron. These are the motor neuron. Motor neuron is the autonomous nervous system. This is the somatic nervous system. So guys, sensory neurons, they can give the information brain. Brain can give the information into the target organ via motor neurons. Who can analyze what is the brain function? These lobes can analyze. Okay? Yes. So guys, this is the spinal cord here. Spinal cord. The nerves are the sensory nerves. The spinal nerves, they can give the information into the spinal cord initially. They can reach the hindbrain and midbrain. Finally, there is a part here, thalamus. Thalamus is the part which is they can analyze. This is the thalamus. thalamus. Yesterday we did discuss where is the thalamus, where is the location of the thalamus, hypothalamus, epithalamus, thalamus, hypothalamus, epithalamus. This is the thalamus. They can analyze the information from the sensory neuron. They can give the signal into the different part of the cerebral hemisphere, cerebral cortex, different part of the cerebral cortex according to their function. Okay, what part they can give. Okay, thalamus can analyze and they can decide to give the part. Okay, which part they can give. Okay, so that part they can take the information, sensory information, they can give the motor area, and motor area finally they can again to reach thalamus, thalamus again to give the information into the spinal cord. Okay, this is the information what's going on into the brain. Okay, we will going to discuss about it, the different parts. Okay, yeah, as we discussed guys, this is like, this is the parietal lobe, parietal lobe. Okay, parietal lobe as such area, which is this area is somatosensory area, somatosensory area, somatosensory area. Somatosensory area is located at parietal lobe, located at parietal lobe. Okay, yes. Next part, this part is a frontal lobe. Frontal lobe as it is motor area, frontal lobe it as motor area. Motor area. So, in the brain cerebrum there are areas, motor area and like I am going to write here, okay, motor area and sensory area and associated area. Sensory area, the sensory neurons they can carry signal into the sensory area. Yeah, we are going to discuss. There is a sensory signals, they can carry information into the sensory area. They can carry information into the sensory area guys. Through the, this relay center is thalamus. Thalamus give the sensory information to the sensory area. Beside the sensory area in the parietal lobe, there is a associated area. There is a associated area. This is associated area. Associated area, they can decide what matter has to take into the action. Okay? If the sensory area, they can give the information towards the associated area. Associated area can decide what is the matter has to take action into the part or not. Mean if any like some actions we ignore, okay, some matters we can take seriously. Mean if any touch, if any warm, if any temperature, if any snake coming towards, okay, if any snake coming towards us, we have to far away. Okay, there is a sense going to create it, give the associated area that can analyze we have to need action into the motor neuron, mean skeletal muscle. They can give information towards the skeletal muscle, because of that is necessary. Okay. Yeah, associated area, they can decide what is necessities or not. Okay. In that condition, associated area, they can analyze if it is action required. If it is action required, they can give the signal into the motor area. Motor area, they can give the signal into the motor area. Motor area, the skeletal muscle has to take function. If the associated area, they can give the signal into the motor area. First, initially, the sensory neurons, they can carry forward the information into the somatosensory area. Beside the somatosensory area, there is an associated area which is analyzed. This is associated area. Associated area, which is can analyze what is the action going to take place or not. They can decide, associated area can decide, they can give the information into the motor neuron. Okay. If the motor neuron, if the information given, the motor neurons, they can take the information into the thalamus. Thalamus finally give into the motor neuron. Okay, into the spinal cord, and they can give the information into the finally into the skeletal muscle. This is what going on frontal lobe and parietal lobe. Parietal lobe has sensory area, and associated area. Parietal lobe, somatosensory area and associated area. The frontal lobe as motor area. Okay. What about this? This exactly forebrain, the front side of this lobe, cerebral lobe in the forebrain, as the part which is useful for the function for, there are many functions going to take place from this area that are like intellectuality, creativity, logical thinking, decision making, analytical ability, these functions are going to take place from the frontal lobe. Frontal lobe, there is a forebrain frontal side. Okay. There is a frontal lobe front side. Okay. There is a like neurons are involved to take action of intellectuality, creativity, logical thinking and decision making, analytical ability. These kind of functions take care of frontal lobe. Okay. Frontal lobe, the forefront area. Okay. They can take the like decision here. Okay. Intellectuality, creativity, logical thinking, decision making, analytical ability. Okay. These are all functions comes under frontal lobe. Okay. Yeah, frontal lobe as it is motor area, it is backside, and there is a parietal lobe which is somatosensitive area and associated area. Okay. Yeah, this is about temporal area. This is temporal area. The auditory neurons, okay, auditory sensory neurons are there. Auditory sensory neurons are there in this temporal lobe. Temporal lobe, auditory sensory neurons. Neurons are there in the temporal lobe. Temporal lobe is actually it is useful for the auditory sense. Okay? The sensory neurons, they can give the information into the temporal lobe for the hearing. Okay? This is the temporal lobe is useful for the hearing. What about occipital lobe? Occipital lobe is the visionary sensory neurons are there. Visionary sensory neurons are there. Visionary sensory neurons. Visionary sensory neurons are there, and associated area also there in this area, occipital area, associated area. They can analyze what kind of visionary take into action. Okay? There is a optic nerve give the signal into the sensory neurons, visionary sensory neuron give the signal into the occipital lobe. Okay? Occipital lobe especially for vision. Okay? Yeah. There is a area which is Broca's area in the frontal lobe. Broca's area. Broca's area is there. Broca's area there in the frontal lobe. It is useful for the hearing, the balance of hearing to speech. Okay? To speech. Response of hearing to speech. Tongue muscles all or depend on this Broca's area. Guys, listen carefully. This cerebral hemisphere has 4 lobes. One is parietal lobe, frontal lobe, occipital lobe and temporal lobe. Parietal lobe, as there is a area, somatosensory area, which is they can capture the signals from the sensory neurons, and beside that there is a associated area. Always they can decide what to take, what not to take for the action. And after that, the frontal area, frontal lobe, which has motor area. Motor neurons, they can involve after sensory information go to take, there is a information, the brain they can analyze, give the information into the motor area. Motor area, they can give the signal into the skeletal muscle finally. Okay? Or they can give the information into the involuntary muscle also. After that, the frontal lobe, as the forefront lobe of the part, they can involve in the functions like intellectuality, creativity, logical thinking, decision making, analytical ability. Okay? And there is a temporal lobe. Temporal lobe is hearing lobe. The hearing senses, sensory neurons, they can give the information into the temporal lobe. There is a associated area is also there in the temporal lobe. They can, like what has lesion action going to take place into the motor neuron or not. Okay? Auditory sensory neurons are there in the temporal lobe. And occipital lobe, especially occipital lobe is for the optic. Optic nerves, they can give the information, sensory information like visionary information, give this lobe. Okay? This lobe, there is a like associated area, they can decide. Okay? Action is going to take place into the motor area. This is all about the 4 areas, 4 lobes. There is functions. Okay? Yeah, I hope are you clear? Thank you. Next slide. Yeah, functions guys. Cerebrum has 3 parts, right? Yeah, we are going to discuss about cerebrum. Okay, cerebrum nothing but it is the brain part. It is the brain part, one of the brain part. It is the largest part of the human brain, guys. Largest part of the human brain. What we discussed. Cerebrum has 4 lobes, their functions we discussed, right? It is the largest part of the human brain. The part of the forebrain, okay, divided into left and right cerebral hemispheres. Yeah, this cerebrum is divided as a left and right cerebral hemispheres. There is a force like the divide with the axon bundle we can call corpus callosum. Thick axon nerve bundle, they can divide 2 lobes. Okay, yeah, if it is like this is one lobe, guys, this is one lobe divided by axon bundle, you can call corpus callosum. Corpus callosum. The surface has folds. These folds, surface has fold like this kind of folds, we can call gyri. Gyri. The grooves mean sulci. There is a like nexus of deep nexus of parts. Okay, we can call sulci. Gyris and sulcus. Next. Yeah, parts of the cerebrum. Cerebral hemisphere, cerebral cortex and white matter and corpus callosum. Already we did discuss what is white matter, what is grey matter in the previous class. Okay? Yeah, functions. What we discussed recently, we will going to through again the functions. Okay? Frontal lobe. Frontal lobe, what is the functions? Voluntary movement, decision making and speech, okay, Broca's area, speech, okay, and personality development, okay, all over comes under frontal lobe. Frontal lobe are what? Voluntary muscles movement, decision making, speech, Broca's area, what we discussed, the personality development, all over comes under frontal lobe. Okay, yeah, parietal lobe. Parietal lobe is the, we can like assume temperature and pain. There is a somatosensory, touch, like pain, temperature and like pressure, everything comes under parietal lobe. Touch, pressure, pain, temperature and somatosensory. Okay, associated area they can decide what going to action take place. If there is any touch, okay, whether it is right touch, they can not respond. If it is in a wrong touch, they can respond into the motor signals. Okay, yes, this is about parietal lobe. Temporal lobe. Temporal lobe, it is side wala lobe, that is hearing, auditory cortex and memory and language understanding. Okay, Wernicke's area. Wernicke's area is there in the temporal lobe. Language understanding, Wernicke area, this is the important for exam. Where it is located, Wernicke area is temporal lobe. Wernicke area is the function is understanding of language, understanding of speech. Okay, it is also useful for the memory. Temporal lobe is useful for the memory and hearing, auditory cortex. Hearing, memory and understanding of language, Wernicke's area, understanding of language. Wernicke area is between the temporal lobe and parietal lobe. Between the temporal lobe and parietal lobe. Occipital lobe, it is the visual processing. Okay, visual processing means optic nerve going to give the information towards the occipital lobe. Okay, next slide. Yeah, key functional area, okay, motor cortex, frontal lobe, motor cortex, sensory cortex is the parietal lobe, and auditory cortex is the temporal lobe, visual cortex is the occipital lobe, Broca's area is the speech production, it is frontal lobe. Okay. Wernicke's area, it is the language comprehensions, mean the understanding level of languages. Okay. We did discuss already. Yes. Next, midbrain guys, midbrain, where it is located midbrain? Below the brain, this is the cerebral hemisphere. After cerebral hemisphere, there is a midbrain. Midbrain, after cerebral hemisphere, there is a midbrain. Okay. Midbrain has certain functions. Okay. What are the corpora quadrigemina? Corpora quadrigemina. There are 4 nuclei places are there in the midbrain. 4 nuclei places. Nuclei mean bundle of cell body part of the axons, neurons. Okay. Bundle of cell body parts of the neurons we can call nuclei. Nuclei. Guys, this is the midbrain. Nuclei. Bundle of cell body parts of the neurons we can call nuclei. There are 4 bundles of the nucleus are there in the midbrain, that is we can call corpora quadrigemina. Okay. New colliculi. So, corpora quadrigemina, there are 2 types. Okay. Inferior to and superior to. Inferior to and superior to. This is the midbrain guys, red wala midbrain. Okay. Midbrain has corpora quadrigemina. 4 bundle of nuclei parts we can call corpora quadrigemina. That is superior colliculi and inferior colliculi. 2 superior colliculi and 2 inferior colliculi are there in the midbrain. Okay. Yes. This is the superior colliculi, they can involve in the visionary reflexes. Inferior colliculi, they are involved in the auditory reflexes. Mean if any turning directly light fall into eye, okay, we can blink the eye, right. Okay. Sudden visionary senses going to take place in the this flashlight like this. Okay. Superior colliculi. If any turning towards loud sounds, the respond of hearing come to the inferior colliculi. Okay. This is about midbrain. Midbrain has, there is corpora quadrigemina. Corpora, quadri mean 4, corpora mean bodies. 4 cell bodies are they involved in different function, inferior and superior. Superior colliculi involved in the sensory like any flashlights, okay, visionary, and inferior are the auditory, mean any loud sounds. Okay. They are involved in this in the midbrain. Okay. Yeah, there are some other terms in the midbrain. Cerebral pedunculus, cerebral pedunculus. Okay. It is connect the cerebrum into the bone, connected to the cerebrum and pons. Guys, this is the cerebrum, and this is midbrain, and this is pone guys. Between the cerebrum and pons there is a midbrain which is connected to the this cerebral pedunculus. Okay. It is carry the motor signals from the cerebral cortex to the lower part. Cerebral pedunculus is what? Okay. It is the place which is to connect like bridge, from the cerebrum to pons. Okay. In the part of midbrain there is a connection of bridge which is we can call cerebral pedunculus. They can carry information of the motor neuron information they can carry. Okay. Yes. Substantia nigra. substantia nigra, it is important, produces dopamine, control voluntary movements, like degeneration leads to the Parkinson disease. If it is lack of this, like this place substantia nigra is what? To produce dopamine. In the midbrain they can produce the chemical is dopamine. If it is the neurons, they can release dopamine, which is can control the voluntary movements, If it is like degeneration, if it is disappear, there is a like if any lack of this movement of this neurons, if it is lack of that neurons, there is a disease, Parkinson disease. Okay, that is substantia nigra is what? Substantia nigra is the place which is they can produce the dopamine, it is control the voluntary movement. Okay. Red nucleus, it is control the posture and muscle of the motor coordination. Mean body posture, it is maintain body posture. Reticular formation, okay, it is partially present to maintain the consciousness of alertness. Okay. These are all our functions comes under midbrain. Okay. Yes. Next slide. Yeah, pons, next hindbrain guys. Okay, hindbrain. Next part is hindbrain. Hindbrain. Hindbrain, one of the part is pons. Pons are located in the hindbrain. This part, upper part we can call pons, lower part we can call medulla. Okay, pons is what? It is the pons, they can control the respiratory system. The pons they can control respiratory system. What are the controllers? The pons along with the medulla oblongata plays a critical role in the regulating the respiratory rhyme center breathing, and it contain the respiratory centers that control the rate of the depth of the breathing. Pons nothing but they can control the respiratory system. Just we quicken to look that guys, per minute 18 times breathing per minute. Okay. If any changes in the breathing, mean it is increase the breathing ratio, number of breathing, if increase, what happened? Mean if breathing sense increase, okay, pons can take the action, that is the area we can call pneumotoxic area. Breathing regulation is comes under medulla. In the medulla there is a part, medullary rhyme center. Medulla. In the medulla, medullary rhyme center, medullary rhyme center involved in the deep breathing. Okay, any like abnormality of breathing, the if the in the breathing there is a gas enter into the alveoli, they can actually if they hold the gas, the oxygen into the long time, there is a chance of breakage of alveoli. So in that condition, it is the continued breathing going to take place in the medulla. There is an area in the pons area they can give the signals, negative signals towards the medullary rhyme center. There is a pons. In that condition, the breathing frequency is going to decrease into the 2 seconds. 2 seconds. Okay. After that, it can be give the signals into the medullary rhyme center. It will take the 2 seconds, then it will relax. Relax is going to take place in the in the lungs. Okay. That is up to 3 seconds. Through the pneumotoxic area in the pons. Pons has 2 areas for the respiratory control, which is one pneumotoxic area, 2 is apneustic area. 2 is the apneustic area. If any negative signals they can give the into the medulla, it is pneumotoxic area. Apneustic area they can give the positive signals to again to breathe. Positive signals. Okay. After 3 seconds relax, okay, they can give the signal into the medulla. Medulla give the signal, finally medullary rhythm center give the signal into the costal muscle, intercostal muscle. That is why the pons are to regulate the respiratory system. Pons are regulate the respiratory system. Okay? Yes. Next slide. Yeah, medulla. Medulla. Medulla is also part of hindbrain. Medulla is also part of hindbrain. It is has centers in the medulla: cardiac center, respiratory center, and vasomotor center. Yeah, in the medulla, this is the medulla in the brain stem. This is the medulla in the brain stem, involved in the cardiac center. Cardiac center can regulate the heart rate and force of contraction. Okay, force of contraction. Cardiac center they can regulate the heart contraction. Okay, respiratory center, it is the control the rhyme, respiratory rhyme and deep depth breathing with the along with pons. And vasomotor center, it can be regulate the blood vessels, increase the diameter, helping the control of blood pressure, increase the control of blood pressure. This is about hindbrain. Okay guys, hindbrain has 2 parts, which is pons and medulla. Pons involved in the respiratory regulations and medulla involved in the cardiovascular, cardio center and respiratory center and vasomotor center. Okay, they can involve in these functions. Midbrain the function is corpora quadrigemina, that is superior caliculi and inferior caliculi. Superior caliculi is under the visionary reflexes, inferior caliculi under the auditory reflexes. Forebrain, that is cerebrum, as frontal lobe, parietal lobe, occipital lobe, and there is a frontal, parietal, occipital lobe, and there is another lobe which is like temporal lobe. Okay, these 4 lobes are involved different functions. Temporal lobe, it is auditory functions, and occipital lobe, it is the visionary functions, and frontal lobe, there are different kind of motor senses, and parietal lobe, it is sensory area, which is can involve in the what kind of senses are going to take place in that. Okay, these are the functions of forebrain, midbrain and hindbrain. Okay, yeah, we discussed about these functions guys. It may help for the NEET exam. Thank you.